Got great memories coming here and playing. I've got great memories of watching the boys play. You know, I got to know a few of the guys, were Robert Harvey and Nathan Burke. Brett Bowie became a good mate. So once then I sort of watched their careers go off. I was a Saint. And wherever I am in the world, I log on, watch the games all over the place. I don't miss too many. You know, we've got so many wonderful supporters and so many people barrack for St Kilda, but even the people that don't barrack for St Kilda, it's like they want to see St Kilda do well, and there's been so many near misses over the years. You can't just jump off. Yes, we all vent our anger and frustrate like we do every football supporter. Don't lose faith, because hopefully, you know, one day in our lifetime, we'll see more than another flag.
Well, this is a special little video tribute. Comes at a really unfortunate time. Obviously, everybody has heard that the devastating news around the passing of an Australian sporting or a global sporting icon in Shane Warne. We know there is a connection with our football club. Played under 19s, kicked 7 against Hawthorn at Moorabbin back in the day. Played a reserves game for the Saints as well. Clearly, his legacy on the sport was left well beyond the game of Australian rules football. One of my favourite stories was always Shane Warne down at training and Robert Harvey down at training. And Robert Harvey was the very, very talented footballer who loved cricket, and Shane Warne was the immensely talented cricketer who loved football. Shane Warne wanted to play 300 games for the Saints, and Robert Harvey wanted to play Test cricket for Australia. Robert Harvey ended up being the AFL superstar, and Shane Warne was the greatest player, certainly, that I've ever seen. And I guess the legacy steps into that cricketing sense. We all grew up watching Shane Warne. We're all of the same age. We're probably at the time we started to know cricket. Shane Warne was just emerging as a player. The Boxing Day Test in 1992 when he destroyed the West Indies. Obviously, that tour of England that came the following year, and the Gadding Ball and all of that came with it. But yeah, for me, and there's been a lot of tributes that have been said on social media over the last handful of hours, and you know, from greats of the game. Sachin Tendulkar, I was just reading one from him then. Michael Vaughan, who was a combatant in the greatest Test series that was ever played in 2005 as the opposing captain. And those are the sorts of things that, you know, when you transcend it, and the tributes that come from places like the Barmy Army who say, we wish you were one of us. And that's just about the biggest tribute you could give to a rival. So, I mean, we certainly in my lifetime, I've never seen a more dominant Australian sporting star than Shane Warne. He was everybody's hero, and I think it's a legacy to him that you think about somebody who perfected an art and that everybody loved. Shane Warne dominating the art of leg spin basically ever since he came onto the scene. I think every single child that picked up a bat or a ball wanted to bowl like Shane Warne, and not a single person has got anywhere near it in that time since. You would think that if you had somebody like Shane Warne come through the ranks, that you would end up with generations of leg spin bowlers that would be coming through, because everybody would be turning to the craft. But nobody has been able to do it anywhere near that level. We've had the odd leg spinner pop up, but he mastered the most difficult art in the sport, and mastered it like nobody has ever mastered, but perhaps any craft within that particular game. Obviously, the 05 Ashes series is one I talk about a lot. He took 40 wickets in a beaten cause at less than 20. He also made a Test match 90 in that series. He single-handedly carried Australia back into that tournament. It's probably the best he ever played. We've all got favourite memories. That the Strauss ball in that series. There are just probably too many to count in that sense. That the World Cup in 99, where he turned his career around, dismantling South Africa in that semi-final. But yeah, I woke up at maybe 5 o'clock in the morning and just glanced over to check my phone and see what time it was, and got a couple of those messages, and it completely puts you on your backside. So yeah, for me, it's more a mark of Shane's greatness. It is one that does rock you to your core. He'll always be someone that St Kilda supporters hold very close. Obviously, the word that the Great Southern Stand at the MCG, I think, is set to be named the Shane Warne Stand when it is rebuilt. So yeah, for me, it's probably an unparalleled greatness. And I guess my final thought on it would be, I loved a quote from somebody on Twitter that said, he wasn't perfect, but obviously nobody is either. He was basically an average bloke who was blessed with more talent than anybody could ever imagine. And that was probably something we couldn't relate to the talent part, but we could relate to the human side of Shane, I think. So, yeah, it's just an incredibly sad loss for mine.
I think you're right. And one of the things that you touched on at the top there, Parker, was how he kind of changed the way we watch cricket and the way a generation played cricket. You know, he changed I remember growing up and everyone, playing street cricket or school cricket or whatever, everyone wanted to be a batsman. They want to be an opening batter or come in at 3 or 4 or whatever. And then all of a sudden in that early 90s period, everyone switched from wanting to be a batsman to wanting to be a spin bowler. And that was for one reason. That was Shane Warne. And, I think we were probably all that kid at some point, at some level. And you're right. There was a generation, multiple generations that have come since then that have tried to become spin bowlers, and no one can get close, like you said. And that's just a testament to the man's greatness. And like you said, he was a flawed human being. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't a great person all of the time. And I think that, like you said, we can all relate to that. The one thing that we couldn't relate to was the greatness on the field and the talent. He's had more talent than almost anyone to play the game ever in any position, any role. And you can make the case that he's the greatest cricketer of all time. And I know that's a debate that all sports have, whether it's AFL football or NBA basketball or whatever it is. And because of the way that every game is played, there's always going to be debate. There's always going to be that conversation. And I think that Shane Warne is right in that conversation for cricket, regardless of batter, bowler, wicketkeeper, anything. And you said earlier that there are probably too many highlights to mention. I mean, there's the hat trick, and obviously that's an unbelievable moment, that the Gadding ball that everyone talks about, and the fact that you can create or produce the greatest moment of a sport all time at that age, at that level, with your first ball in Test cricket, in Ashes cricket, I should say, and I mean, it's just the resume is unparalleled. It's incredible. I count myself incredibly lucky that I was there that day at the MCG to see him get his 700th wicket. It's one of my favorite sporting memories. I grew up idolizing Shane Warne as a cricketer. I mean, at that age, I didn't know about, the human side and the flawed genius. He was just the genius. He was just the wizard, the spin king, the Sheik of Tweak. He was a rock star, and was the reason that I became obsessed with cricket. Dean Jones was the one who made me love cricket. Shane Warne was the one who made me obsessed with cricket. And to have lost both of those guys in the last little while is devastating. I didn't believe it when my wife came in this morning and told me that Shane Warne had died. I made her repeat it 3 or 4 times because I couldn't quite wrap my head around the sentence. And I'm sure it will take a lot of people a lot of time to comprehend that. And it's just a very sad day.
And pretty much same situation for me. My wife got up a bit before me and came in and said, Warnie's died. I just sort of thought, you've read something somewhere that's maybe not right. I had to look it up myself and gone, wow, it's not what you sort of expect, especially after we've just had Marsh yesterday. And at the end, they've also fallen on the same day when you, no different countries, but it fell on the same day. Yeah. It's not something you expect to wake up and hear first thing. It's, just having grown up, cricket's been my chosen sport to play growing up, and basically having got to a reasonable level myself. I started off, Darren said everyone to be, Nick said everyone wanted to be a batsman, but I was a bowler myself and bowled quick. And then all of a sudden thought, let's give this spinning thing a chance, because Warnie came along and everyone was obsessed with Warnie. Didn't take me long to figure out I couldn't turn at all, so I went back to fast bowling again. But it was just the sort of thing you wanted to be him. He took the world by storm, and you're thinking, is that what it takes to be the next big thing? You need to be a spin bowler. But I remember a dress up day. I went as Warnie. It's in primary school, and it's just someone who just had a massive impact at a very young age, and then it just grew and grew, and it went around the world. And there's probably more. One way to think about it is there's probably more Warnie fans in India than there is Australia. That gives you the idea that just how big he is around the world. It's hard to sort of comprehend, thinking how many people enjoy what you've done. Like, we've got, I don't know, a couple of thousand fans. He could possibly have billions of fans. It's it's just something you sort of think, the impact he has had on everyone. So the connection we've got with him, with the club that we love, and that, you sort of think that it's great to have shared something with him. Where unfortunately he never got to see us take the Holy Grail. It got close, but yeah, you can just imagine what a Warne part would have been after a St Kilda premiership. That would have shut down Brighton. It's just crazy to think that what that could have been. But yeah, it would have been something to, if you could have got to, that would have been what you wanted to get to, because that would have been the place to be after we finally get there. But it's something that we, as we say, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to speak to. But yeah, we'll keep going, and we'll do what we do today, and yeah, we'll move on. I think tonight the boys will be wearing black armbands, I'm certain, and try and pay a good tribute to him. Unfortunately, it's only a practice match, but it would have been nice if the real footy was starting tonight and it was a proper match. It was, people were taking it a bit more seriously, but all the same, the boys will get out there and hopefully, putting a good effort for him.
One of the things you mentioned there, H, was one of the reasons that he was so loved and the impact that he had on so many. And the fact that he loved our footy club and St Kilda and Melbourne as a city and all those things so much, it was such a big part of who he was, made him that, even more relatable. And because at the end of the day, he was just one of us. He was a footy fan. He loved sport. He loved being in Australia, and he loved being from Melbourne. And he loved our footy club, and we loved him for it.
Yep, I think that's a fair assessment. A man who wore the number 23 at international level because he loved Stuart Lowe in an era, as you say, when the world was dominated by fast bowlers from the West Indies through the 70s and the 80s. Instead of doing it with raw pace and power, he did it literally with magic. 1,319 first-class wickets, 1,001 international wickets, first player to 700 test wickets, most wickets ever in a calendar year when he took 96 in 2005, 195 Ashes wickets, 38 times took 5 wickets in an innings at international level, 10 times took 10 wickets in a match, won the Ashes 7 times, won the World Cup in 1999, and forever a Saint. Rest in peace, Shane Warne.